Star Community Radio on TV and YouTube. Our talk show and music shows are featured on Our City TV, Suddenlink Channel 12, and have their own YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with posted shows and comment on them below the video.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us on the Cindy Cochran Show. I'm Cindy Cochran, and I'm so happy to be here with Richard, who's running everything, the audio and everything. So he's the owner. He can do whatever he wants to do, and that's good. I love that. Yesterday, we had my husband, Sam, on, and that was pretty funny. He is so dry. His dry sense of humor is great. And he has it. And he has so much philosophizing to do and things he knows about. I mean, he said, I'm in my 80s. I know a lot about a lot of stuff. So he's going to do that. But he wasn't feeling real good, but I made him come anyway. And when we got in the car, I said, are you feeling better? And he said, yeah, because that whole time I'm sitting there talking, I'm not thinking about how bad I feel. So that was good. And then apparently it wasn't too bad because he got home and he went and mowed 5 acres of grass, and I can't believe it. So I think he's doing fine.
I always enjoy Sam when he comes in.
You do?
Yeah.
And what is it you enjoy about Sam?
He's a straight shooter.
He is,
You can't beat around the bush with him.
No. He tells you exactly how you think, and then later he went, What'd I say? I didn't say anything. I just said da-da-da-da-da, and I go...
Oh, he would get torn up on normal news networks.
Oh, man.
Because he'd be a bigot.
Oh,
well, that's one thing I love. What I love about him is he speaks the truth in a sense of certain topics are really hard to speak the truth about because you can be misunderstood so easily, especially in today's world. If you use certain words, it's like people just take it the completely wrong way, and there's no way going back.
No, not at all.
But I understood everything he was saying.
But his IDC...
But it can be taken the other way if you want it to. His
IDC factor is so high, I don't care, that nothing bothers him. It's like... So.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's a huge issue we face with today's media and also today's dialogue is there's certain words you can use and then you can't use on certain circumstances, and then all of a sudden it's just like, when did that ever happen here?
When did they take that word away that I can't use it? It used to mean this, and it used to mean that. But he loves to lecture because I've got so much knowledge to impart, and I don't have much time left. So that's always this thing. I don't have much time left, so I've got to impart this knowledge now. And he's a great note. He takes and tapes notes up against different things because he doesn't want to talk about it anymore. And he goes, like the air conditioning unit, he goes, if you turn this down below this, you're paying the bill. I want you to know I'll come after you for the money.
I need to start doing that for certain people in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't imagine who, but you have that same kind of problem, but that's how you would handle it?
Well, like Holly bought me a wet brush. You know when my hair was really long?
Yeah.
And I would never comb my hair. Like, I would just kind of like, well, I'd wash it every time.
And shake your head like
and
the
shake
dog?
it. I'm
Yeah.
like, we're good to go.
Yeah.
And when the hair got real long,
Yeah.
like past my shoulders, 'cause
Right.
I've never done that before. She got me this wet brush, and apparently you're supposed to use it like right when you get out of the shower. It's supposed to help with long hair and get everything out. And then all of a sudden, when I got my hair cut, she took it. And I liked it. I liked the brush.
Yeah.
So I was like, where's my brush? And she's like, oh, it's over here. I'm like, well, that's my station. Like, that's where my brush usually is with my
Space.
toothbrush.
Did she invade your space?
Well, no, it got to the point where, like, you find it in the most random, you find it in the utility room.
Well,
You find it, like, I was like, why do you keep moving my brush?
it's
like
because she's probably in there doing something.
Well, I
and,
know,
and
but
she's,
why
her
use my
hair.
brush? You have brushes.
yeah. Well,
I know. I was like, this is bizarre because I can never find it, so I can never brush my hair.
no, I understand.
And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to revert back to when I just grow my hair out and just not worry about it.
Right. Are
And
you
then-
are you doing that now?
Grow my
Is-
hair out?
Yeah. Are you doing that so that you're
Oh,
going
I
to make
like
it go as long as you want to? You're not going to do a man bun, are you?
No, I think I want to do a mullet.
A mullet. That's what you need is a mullet.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm gonna. I'll usually get a haircut probably gonna go once a year.
Well, I went over to
That's probably what I'm gonna end up.
I went
doing.
over to Switch, which is where you get your hair cut.
Yeah,
And I talked to
there's a lot of
the owner.
a lot of people there that cut hair.
No, the owner. I just didn't walk in and just start talking to
Oh, Miss
her.
Kruger. I call her Miss Kruger.
What? What's her first name?
Miss
No.
Kruger.
No, her name's not Miss
Well, I
Kruger.
guess that's right because Keith's mom's next door, so she's she's Mrs. Kruger.
Well, anyway, the owner, the girl that's the owner that's been there forever, for 20, 30 years, whatever it was, she said, I said, listen, I hate to interrupt you, but I want you on the show. I want you to come over and talk about all the stories you have, the history of this place and cutting hair and all that. So that would be awesome if you could do that. And she said, well, I don't know. I said, well, you know Richard, so just reach out to Richard and tell him you can come over on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursdays. Just let us know. And so she said, okay. And then I apologized
Allison.
to the person she was cutting hair.
It's Allison.
Allison?
That's her first name.
Okay, Allison.
I wanted to see if it would come to you.
Sorry, Allison. I was trying to process that in my head, and it just would not come to me at all. I'm sorry. I use the stroke card for that. Okay.
Well, what I love is you talk to people and you're like, oh, you just contact Dick.
well, because she knows you so
well. No, I
She
have
cut
this
your
theory
hair.
about you, Cindy.
Uh-oh.
My theory about you is you, in your mind, you live at the very top of the pop culture mountain, meaning like everything's taken care of. You're like, I got servants to do that. I got assistants to do this. I don't need a phone. I don't need to talk to people about contacting me because you can contact this person. You know, that kind of thing. I think you, in your mind, you live that way. You're like, oh, just talk to my producer. He'll take care of everything.
You know who would
Because
agree?
do you even know like your own phone number?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I know my driver's license number. I know my social security number. Yeah, but you don't know your social security number, do you?
Yeah.
Do you know your driver's license number?
No, I do not know that.
Aha. Okay.
That's why I always have my license on me, but I don't have my social security
Well,
card
sometimes
on
I
me.
can't find my purse, so it's good to have.
Because the
know all
social
those
to
numbers.
me is used more than the driver's license number.
Really? You
Yeah.
think so?
I mean, I would say it's about double the use. That's why I was like, to remember my license number became an issue for me because I would get it mixed up because somewhat similar to my social.
Really?
So yeah,
That's
it's
weird.
kind of weird, and that's why I was like, I remember one time I filled out like very important paperwork, but I wrote down like half my driver's license number, half my social, like I got the numbers in my mind mixed up, and I sent it in, and then like 8 months later, they're like, yeah, you didn't do any of this right. You're gonna have to owe money. I'm like, what?
Oh, that's so good to have that information. So when you start yelling at me about something I forgot
Yeah.
to do, but
But yeah, I don't.
No,
I don't
but
know.
when the police come to the window, and I roll down the window, I say, I can't find my license, but I know the number. Is that good enough? And he went, yeah. Okay, number one, I can give you a ticket for not having your license with you. And number two, but go ahead and give me the number. And so I give him the number. And they
See,
said,
it's always better to have it on you. So why?
yeah. So anyway, but I'll tell you someone who will agree with your consensus of me is
Well, you're just
my sister.
You're just a celebrity, Cindy.
Yeah, that's it. I'm a celebrity.
Well, if I ever tell somebody, don't talk to me, talk to this person because they'll take care of it. But you clearly could have gotten her phone number.
She was cutting hair.
I know
doing
you
this
could have
person's
grabbed
hair.
a card. You could have grabbed something there, and I would have easily have taken that card and contacted them for you. But see, I don't know her phone number, so that's what I'm saying. Like you're like, oh, it'll be taken care of. You reach out to Dick. I don't deal with people. I don't deal with people like you, Allison.
I
Dick
could
does.
go home and get this from Sam. Yikes. But who would agree with you really even more is my sister.
Your sister?
Yes, my sister, Carolyn Stephenson, who's going to be my guest today. And we're going to take a break, and we're going to call her. She's in Lubbock. And she'll probably just love what Richard has said about me. Okay, all right, we'll be right back. Don't go away. You're listening to the Cindy Cochran Show, sponsored by the Wootton Financial Group.
Every week, people ask the same two questions. Are they ready to retire? Will their savings last for their lifetimes? Hi, this is Chris Wootton with Wootton Financial Group. Our firm has been in Montgomery County for decades, but the hopes and dreams of the people we serve never change. We help answer these two questions and many more that people have about their uncertain financial future. We have a simple introductory client experience that allows us to get to know the client and includes a few meetings for the client to kick the tires at no charge. We provide a concise, one-page summary that helps the client get a better handle on which questions are the right questions for them. To learn more about Wootton Financial Group's process in helping their clients to a clearer financial future and to see their contact information, visit Cindy Cochran Show page on irlonestar.com/TCCS. Wootton Financial Group is a proud sponsor of the Cindy Cochran Show. Wootton Financial Group is available by phone at 936-449-5952 or visit them on the web at www.woottonfinancial.com. That's www.woottonfinancial.com.
And we're back on the Cindy Cochran Show. Thank you so much for staying with us. I appreciate that. And always remember, though, if you missed the first part of the show or any part of the show, you can go to YouTube or Lone Star Community Radio Facebook, and you can re-watch the show. You could totally binge all my. I have shows from 2012.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. That's amazing.
I try to keep everything for you, Cindy.
Thank
I
you.
work really hard keeping my archive clean.
Oh, okay. So that means you put it up on the cloud?
I just keep it. It's got to be there forever. People got to find you.
I know they do. They need to. And when I die, will you play some of those at my funeral? That would be cool. Especially the ones with Bob Smiley and with one I'm getting ready to do right now with my sister, Carolyn Stephenson. Okay, now you're obligated to do that. So here's my sister, Carolyn Stephenson. She's a CPA. She's a partner with Robinson, blah, 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 blah. I don't know all the names, but she's a partner. And she lives in Lubbock. And Lubbock is a much better place and a richer place because of Carolyn, because she has saved people there millions and millions of dollars with helping them with their taxes. And she just finished her 63rd year of doing taxes. She started when she was 8 years old. No, I'm kidding. Hello, Carolyn.
Hey. Cindy, I want to say right up front is that I love the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. I love them. I love our government. They have kept me employed for 63 years, and I'm forever grateful for them. and I love them. So anything I say, I want them to know that it's said out of love to help them.
That's just what Sam says before he starts his lecture to me. Uh-huh. I'm only telling you this because I love you, and I wouldn't say it any other way. So you watched the show from yesterday?
Yes, I saw that. And I hope everybody knows what a sweet, loving, sensitive, happy, positive person Sam is. And it's only because of him that you reflect his aura.
Uh-huh. That's it. That's it.
Totally believe it.
Yeah.
Totally believe it.
Yeah. Richard, you didn't hear Richard he feels like he's got my reasoning power, my personality, my who I am, and why I am like I am. He thinks he's got that all down. And I said, you know who would agree with you? I mean, explicitly, and 100% is my sister. And so we're bringing her on. And so I said, I could go home and get this from Sam. So, he was getting after me about something. I said, come on, this is my only refuge to come in here and you just have to tell me how wonderful I am and how, there's nobody like me. Yes.
Well, Cindy, I would like to say that being raised with you helped condition me to know how to deal with the IRS.
How is that?
Yes, and that is that I use no logic. The IRS does not use logic in coming up with its conclusion of what's taxable, what's not taxable, what's deductible, how to deal with an IRS audit. All that's totally illogical. And so it's strictly driven by politics and motivated by emotion and just whatever you want. You can put a spin on it to be whatever you want it to be. And I learned that from you, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Was that a compliment? I don't think so. I think that was a slap in the face. Okay.
Oh, did I say how much I love the IRS? Yeah, I love you, Cindy.
Yes. Okay. Great. That's wonderful. And I think that, you being my sister, and I finally grew about a foot and a half taller than you, and everybody thought I was older because I was taller, and I kept just because she's short doesn't mean that I'm not older than her.
What does it matter?
Well, it mattered because
I can understand if y'all are like in high school and you can like boys.
Well,
and there was always a problem with that, but we're kind of past that, aren't we, Cindy?
Well, yeah, but see, I'm 6 years younger than she is. So when I told her I was marrying Sam, who is her age, she went, "What? He's my age." I didn't think I'd have to worry about you.
My brother, who's I want to say 6 years older than me, married a woman my age.
Well, yeah.
And did I ever bring it up? Do I bring it up to him?
No, but that's different with boys, and you don't care about how you.
Are you trying to get back at your sister for making that logical joke about the IRS? I feel like that's what you're doing, Cindy.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, see, this is. Did I happen to mention when I went to an audit for Cindy? She was audited some years ago, and when I asked her for her records, she gave it to me on a Raggedy Ann calendar. Now, you think that wasn't embarrassing to go to an IRS audit with your sister's documentation on a Raggedy Ann calendar? That's what I have to deal with.
But I tried to write everything down on those little squares of what I had done and what I'd spent. I never had any receipts. That's the thing, and that's what my sister has taught me. Doesn't mean I do it, but she has taught me that you always, whatever you do, whatever you spend, wherever you go, you have to have a receipt for it. And if you have that, then and it's not in one box all mashed up together, or it's in different things. But if you have that and it's nice and neat, like Sam has all his stuff, then it's so much easier to have an audit because you have the receipt for it and they can't argue with you. Because she said the first thing they're going to go after is your mileage, right? Because you can't prove it all the time.
Yeah. If I could if I could tell everybody one thing they could keep good track of would be keeping track of their business auto miles. That would be huge, because that is the number one thing almost every audit I've ever seen always attacks that one aspect of their business expenses, and almost invariably it can be the IRS can adjust it because they don't keep detailed records. But I can tell you a great story on that.
Yes.
Want to hear it?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Well, here's the rules on keeping an auto log. You're supposed to keep it timely, when you actually incur the miles, and what they relate to is it relates to business, and some type of third-party documentation is even great if you can reinforce that point. So, for example, one year, within 2 weeks of each other, now they do most audits by what they call a mail audit. They both got notices saying that their auto business miles was being audited. Now, one was an outside salesman, and one was a very high professional, very engineer. The engineer had a daily diary, had everywhere he went, had his miles documented, even had a business card taped to the diary for that day. Perfect. I mean, it was textbook accounting for mileage. On the other hand, the outside salesman had squat. He didn't have the beginning mile reading. He didn't have the ending mile reading. He didn't have a receipt for gasoline. He had nothing. He had no mileage written down at all. Another thing to do is, one of the first things the IRS wants to do is establish by a third party how many total miles you put on your car. So normally they will accept an odometer reading that you get when you have your oil change. So that was the closest thing I had to this taxpayer, the outside insurance salesman, or it wasn't insurance, he was the outside salesman, documented. He had, it was maybe a month off, but he at least had a beginning odometer reading, and he had an ending odometer reading. But the number of miles he claimed was more than those total, adding and subtracting that mileage. I thought, well, we are going to be in a lot of trouble. He is not going to get anything allowed. It was a pretty huge amount of tax liability. So we started reconstructing it. I got him to get his sales manager to give him the requirements of the company of how he had to use his mileage. He had some 230 clients that he had to go visit. He sold hard big equipment, that he had to go out and visit all these farmers and all these different business people, and so I had him list all those, put the number of miles it was from his office to those clients, had the office manager verify that he was required by his business to go there and back, go visit the clients at least 2-3 times a year. So from that, we reconstructed his miles. We reconstructed the requirement from the taxpayer, from the office manager. And so both of those things were sent in at the same time. The engineer that had this meticulous records, I copied all the diary, all the sheets of the diary, and sent all these off to mail out. Well, they came back within a few weeks of each other, and both of them had been totally denied any business miles whatsoever. So I said, well, the next step is you request that your audit be referred to appeal. And you want a second person to look at the findings, because there's no way this engineer should be disallowed any of his mileage. It was perfect textbook.
Right.
So we sent them all back to review, but the engineer wanted to he just wanted to get rid of the IRS, just put it aside and not deal with it. He didn't want to go any further. But the salesman, he had a lot of money at stake. He wanted to go forward. And I want you to know they allowed every bit of that mileage on that salesman that reconstructed his mileage, and did not allow the mileage of the engineer. So, and I have asked the IRS, when you tell us to comply with all this, I tell the clients they comply with it, and I give you their compliance. Why would you accept that? Now get this. Their response to me was, well, this is this one agent said, Well, because it could have been made up.
Oh, man. But
So, what does that mean? So I say all that to say that you still have to just, when you comply with, or if you haven't complied timely, if you can at least reconstruct it with some third-party documentation, there's still a chance that going on to appeals, you can get that deduction allowed. But that is one of the most vulnerable spots, besides meals and entertainment, is another big one, because they're so hard to document by third parties to be substantiated. So it cuts both ways.
But if you have a receipt from the restaurant or the strip club that you went to, wouldn't that do?
Yeah. Well, if the IRS has been all over the place with meals and entertainment.
Right.
They've allowed it. They haven't allowed it. They've allowed 50%. When they tried to stimulate the restaurant business, you have to realize a lot of deductions and a lot of IRS positions are to motivate certain things within the economy. So, for instance, if they want to motivate restaurants, we had this big pandemic, and people stopped going to restaurants, so they wanted to promote that again. So then all restaurant meals are deductible, and when they want to restrict it, maybe only half of them or none of them or only a portion are deductible.
But how do we know
so,
if they choose, to do stuff like that? How do they let us know that now we can deduct the meals?
Well, that's why you have to have a professional usually prepare your return, because they keep up with all that stuff. Cindy, did you ever get rid of your Raggedy Ann?
No, I put it up on the wall and said, "Here, my sister took this and got us through the audit, and we didn't owe any money, right? When we did that audit." There you go.
Came out good.
Yeah, see, they liked Raggedy Ann. It was nostalgic for them, so that was fine.
Right.
But tell me, I want you to tell the story. I was trying to tell Richard about it. Chuck, your son, got a check from where? Where did he get the check from?
He got a check from the IRS. I think it was like $3 million or something. And of course, obviously, it was in error. And the problem then became, what do you do with it? Because the IRS has record of that being sent to you. If you send it back to him, you don't know if it's going to get back to him or not.
Right.
If you could physically take it to their office, they will not give you a receipt. That's crazy thing. Now, all this could be changed a lot because they've totally just revamped a lot of the structure. When you used to be able to go in and talk to the IRS directly, it gave you a little more confidence that a human being has heard what you had to say, and you can't afford to send it through the mail. You can't afford to send it through the mail certified. You have no way of documenting for sure. I mean, you can you can send it certified. You can keep the certified number. You can track it and all that stuff. But
it was a $3 million check from the IRS, and if he had gone and cashed that or put it in the bank or deposited it in the bank, then he would. Yeah. What would they do to him? They're not responsible for their error.
Right in, right? What really, and that was a real extreme. So I finally got a hold of somebody and directly to deal with it. But that's not always the case. But you can get checks, and if you don't think you should have gotten that check, don't make the mistake of cashing a check or depositing the check. You make copies of it, put in your safety deposit box, whatever, and until you can get verification that find out why it happened. The best way to do that is to get a transcript. Anybody can go online or go to the IRS.gov and get a transcript of their of what the IRS sees or what the IRS has been sent in regards to their particular account. So every time somebody, say, takes a deduction for something they paid you, under certain circumstances, they'll issue you a 1099, and a copy of that 1099 goes to the IRS so that they get the deduction. But the IRS now knows that you should be showing that as income. So they have a big program called the matching program where everybody that issues 1099s, K1s, W2s, all of that third-party documentation that they're getting some benefit for, they have to send to the IRS, and the IRS documents that under your Social Security number or the ID number that it was issued to.
Right.
So you have to make sure that everything that's been documented or sent to the IRS, you know about, you got a receipt for, because by the time you file your return, you're doing good to know what you did last year, much less if there's anything you need to account for.
Exactly.
So it's always a good practice. Not everything's posted. Like a lot of times it's something you almost have to do for history instead of something current. You should be able to go in and get a transcript of your account, say by June of 2023, should have already posted everything that came in prior to 2022, including 22, of income that IRS is looking for on your tax return. So that's a real good start to trying to minimize any IRS audit, because if the IRS doesn't find on your tax return what's been sent to them, that pulls you up for a matching audit. And if they look at your return and see, well, they've left off $100,000, what else have they done? And they then send you a notice to be audited.
And they'll never call you, right? They won't call you. So know that's not the IRS.
No, the IRS should send you a notice to the last address they have on file for the tax return you filed. Where you got to be careful, if they send you a mail, they usually will notify you of mail audit or of any discrepancy in your filing by sending an official IRS letter to your address. Where you get into a problem, if you don't notify the IRS anytime you move or you change your address, if you don't notify them timely, they're still sending it automatically to the last address on file.
Right.
So they could be sending you notices and you wouldn't get them. And if you don't respond to the notice, they can call you. But anytime you feel uncomfortable or you're suspicious of an IRS agent, it's a scam, you need to ask that agent for their ID number, their name and ID number, and then you call and tell them you get their phone number and tell them you'll call them back once you verify it's a valid IRS audit or agent. And then you call that. There's a 1-800-829-1040. You can call, and it's of course it's a nightmare to call and get through to somebody. If you
right.
You can go to their office, of course it's better, but if you have to call and wait, but call and tell them you've been contacted by this agent and give them their ID number and verify that they're a valid agent before you respond to them.
Well, I'm sorry. What? Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's about the easiest, because it's very intimidating.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Let me tell you. You remember the time I called you from? I was in Dallas. I was driving on the freeway in Dallas. It's bad enough to try and drive with people from Dallas on their freeway because they're such bad drivers. But I'm driving on that. I get a call, and this guy says, "Hello, I'm so-and-so. Is this Cindy Cochran?" I said, "Yes." And said, "Well, I'm the agent with the IRS, and we need to, you need to come in for a meeting, or you need to send us information." And he said, but I couldn't listen to anything else after he said, "This is the IRS," and I couldn't feel my knee or to even push the gas down, and I needed to pull over. I pulled over, and I said, "Well, I have a CPA. I'll have to get in touch with her first, and then can I call you back?" And they hung up. So I think they hung up, and so anyway, I told them I was going to call you, and I called you, and you said that's not the IRS because they don't call. And I said,
right.
A lot of older people like myself, you say IRS and you have a, authoritative voice, you think this is it. You're
right, and it was reported, and I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, that there'd been some like $8 million stolen from taxpayers due to these type scams.
wow.
Now, the IRS should never call you and say, I need your Social Security number or your bank account information to pay this, or we're going to shut down your Netflix. I mean, I don't know what, or your computer or whatever
Yes.
that you would respond to. Now, that's not right. And you should never have that kind of threat. Oh, that's a scam. You should never have to give your bank account number to anybody over the phone. Now, the IRS is getting more aggressive in electronic contacts. They'll usually initiate anything by letter. You can verify, any agent, any information going directly to the IRS yourself. And once that's satisfied, then a lot of times you do communicate through email or fax, usually in a secure environment, information back and forth in regards to the audit.
Well, now
if it's an audit.
Yeah. Okay, you're in Lubbock, and Lubbock is like one of the richest towns. There's a lot of money there in Lubbock, right? And you have a lot of professional people that make a lot of money, and they will gravitate to you because they know that you're so good and you've got a good reputation, and everybody loves you there. So, but you found out that it was interesting how some people get around having to pay taxes, right? Did you actually?
Well, what like for instance, I think there was a big deal about Trump only owing $750, some small amount, or some I forgot, Fox News or somebody or NBC or somebody was reporting when his tax returns were disclosed that he paid very little tax. Well, one of the things that happened, there are many things you can do to help minimize your tax, but not everybody has the resources to speculate in those particular areas.
Mm-hmm.
When Trump came in, he was very much for real estate. That was his development. And each president that has a special interest, a lot of times, they may favor certain things but it's got to go through Congress and all that stuff. It's not something they just directly get to do. But real estate has been favored in the last several years. They got special benefits. And one of the biggest benefits that came, people that were, especially if they're considered professional realtors, professional real estate people, they got to deduct or accelerate the deduction on a lot of the assets, like buildings and rental properties and all sorts of things. They got a lot bigger deduction for it than they'd ever had before.
Right.
And they did it by what's called cost segging, where you have somebody go in and say, you buy this building and you have to depreciate it, say if it was rental property over 27 and a half years. But if you go in and cost seg it and take and allocate the cost that relates to aspects of the real estate that's going to deteriorate faster than 27 and a half years, like appliances, carpet, windows, all of that type stuff, and you take that amount out, that amount can be accelerated under the 100% bonus depreciation. So if you bought a $300,000 house, let's say, to rent, and it after it went through this cost segging analysis that professionals do, and 60,000 of it was considered aspects of that $300,000 house were actually depletable or depreciable assets that would come under the classification of qualifying for 100% bonus depreciation. You could accelerate and take a $60,000 deduction up front against your ordinary income if you were a real estate professional. Anyway, it's they got a lot of benefits. So you think of somebody like Trump that buys a $30 million building, and they get that cost saved, then that deduction can go against other income,
Right.
and net it out. So it's that type of thing. So when he said, my tax was that low because I, applying the regular
tax laws,
that
yeah.
anybody can get,
Right.
he's right. But it's that very few people have that much extra money to take as a deduction against it.
Well, you told me that people have done things to get around taxes. It's like melting their gold and making them the faucets in their bathroom.
That wasn't tax. What I was telling you a story about this. I wasn't associated with this. This is a story told about the bankruptcy law. Said the only thing that is saved in bankruptcy is your home, your homestead, and your retirement account. And I think maybe another $2,000 of personal stuff. So if you got sued or if you had to file bankruptcy, you did not have to, your personal, you could keep your home. So what people did, if they thought bankruptcy was looming over, they would go in and convert their cash to gold, and they melt down the gold and attached it to their faucets and whatever you're going to attach gold to in your house. And it became, because it had to be a permanent, a component part of your house, your residence. And that's the way they got around. I mean, that wasn't taxes. That was bankruptcy.
Oh, bankrupt. You're right. Yeah, that's what you said. But that just cracked me up that they could melt their gold, and then I guess when they sold the house, they just take. They take all that with them.
I'm sure when their bankruptcy period was over of monitoring that, they just reversed the process. I had heard that story from somebody who was telling me about it, probably some bankruptcy attorney or something. But I think then every time a law is set, people start trying to figure out a way to get around it.
Right.
And then the IRS starts restricting the interpretation of the law to try to get it to where it only applies to what they want it to apply to. So the IRS can come up with, politicians can come up with this great, we're going to give everybody a deduction for their child care, for example. You have any child care, you're going to get a deduction for that. Well, by the time it's all restricted down and you apply it to your taxes, you may get a deduction of $600. But they promote it like it's going to be this great savings or great benefit.
Right.
And that's a lot of people are paying a lot more taxes this year because it's at the end of all these stimulus and all the extra add-on tax and the bigger deduction for child care, the bigger deduction for the dependent care deduction. All of those, they don't have to really change a lot of the principles of the law. They just have to change the tax rate or the definition or restrictions on the different things that are already in place.
You
so
can't.
It can be very misleading.
I'm so blown away by all the stuff and Richard is holding up signs when for me to say, right, that's right, good. Because Carolyn speaks numberese, or the language that she speaks and has in her head is so amazing to me. It's like, it's entertaining. It's like, okay, just talk about taxes for a while, and it's just entertaining because I have no idea what you just told me, but I'm going to try and act like I do and nod my head when I'm supposed to. But I wanted to say, when I found out that they were going to hire 84,000 or however many it is, new IRS agents, and also train them in how to use firearms, and the only thing that gave me solace, because I know that you had to come up against so many IRS agents in trying to protect your clients from them, but that, and I know you love them, but I'm just saying that if they only knew that you're also packing. And that you are a licensed gun carrier, and you're 4'11", and because you're not going to be not going to be really intimidating by your size when you walk in, and but Charlie Cash said one time, whenever you went in to represent them to these IRS agents, and you walked in, you're this little 4'11", he didn't know you were so short, and so you were so tiny and so beautiful, and you walk in, and by the time that you left, those IRS agents were totally, I can't say it. I'm not allowed to say that word, but they were totally drained of everything that they thought they knew, because Charlie said she knew so much more than they knew, and they're the IRS people.
Oh, okay. Well, let me stop you right there. I appreciate all those compliments, but let me tell you how much. Let me just give you an example. In the IRS, you're right. They said they were hiring 87,000 new IRS agents, and they said one of the budget cuts is going to be. I heard this on the news. So I don't know, but they were going to cut. One of the budget cuts was going to be they were going to reduce those 87,000 to 12,000. They were going to reduce them by 75,000. Well, number one is we can't find accountants. It's hard to find good accountants that will work for you. So I'm sure the IRS is having a hard time finding accountants to replace that. So they've dropped that number. But one time, but what the IRS will do is when they get all these new accountants, they have to train them. And so in the process of training them, they'll put out all kinds of IRS audits. And I've gone through this about 4 times with the IRS, and where they'll, you may have 3 or 4 audits a year, and then you have 150 audits. It's that kind of. And when you go to the audits, you can tell they're kind of in training, trying to learn. It's tax law is very complex, very hard to follow. So I'm not running them down. It's just ridiculous.
No, but when you told me about you're trying to protect this poor little couple, and this IRS agent comes in, very intimidating, and telling them that if they don't have the right answers, they're going to jail, and you have to, and you.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, you can get in a situation that can be very scary. So you try to avoid it. You just be sure you file all your income. Be sure you can support your deductions, and just file timely. Don't get behind on your taxes. And if something comes up unusual and you can't pay your taxes, or the best, you need to act on it as soon as possible. There's offering compromises, installment agreements. But if something has happened and the IRS is totally unreasonable, the best thing that everybody has to go to is called the Taxpayer Advocate's Office. And you can do it individually. You can file it through IRS. You can go to irs.gov and pull up form, and this is interesting. The form number is 911. And you pull that form up. It's simple to fill out. You sign it and fax it to the Taxpayer Advocate. And they got behind during COVID, but they would call you within 72 hours to respond to you to help you with an out-of-control IRS scenario.
Oh,
and
man.
They are absolutely awesome. I've worked with them for years, and they can find out things and do things. Now, if you're just being frivolous and you don't want to pay your taxes and you're being stubborn about it, that's another issue. But if you really are honestly trying to do the right thing and something is happening, because sometimes medical issues come up, sometimes horrific scenarios come up that just aren't in the structure of tax law, and you got to get some help.
That's true. Like hurricanes come through, and then you've lost everything, all of your receipts and everything. What do you do?
Right. And I know a lot of people don't realize their returns are open for audit for 3 years. Meaning, if you file your return timely, the IRS has 3 years to notify you they're going to audit some element of your tax return or your whole return. And sometimes what can be intimidating is just what are the limitations? What can they get into, and do you have any protection against their request? But they can come in after 3 years. They're not supposed to have the ability to come in and audit your tax return unless they can prove that you fraudulently did or did not file your return properly. fraudulently left out income that, and I think it's around 20. If you left out at least 25% of income that you should have reported, your return can be open for 6 years. And if it's out and out fraud, it can may probably be unlimited. But another thing you need to know is the IRS has 10 years to collect a tax assessment. So if the IRS has assessed a tax liability against you, and they haven't collected it at the close of 10 years of that period, then they are not supposed to be able to collect beyond that.
Man, so they give you 10 years to pay it back. To pay what they owe.
The IRS has 10 years to collect it. And,
to collect it from you, okay.
And another thing, the IRS is turning collections over. They're contracting with outsiders to do the collection on back taxes. And the problem is, if you get contacted, you say, I don't owe that money. I thought we got that settled a long time ago. And you try to plead your case to the collector.
Oh,
they don't have anything to do with it. You have to convince them that it's kind of a fraudulent structure. It never was taken care of, and beg them to take it back to the IRS. And you be contacted by somebody at the IRS to review or look at your scenario.
Right.
Because they don't have the authority to do it, but I have seen it where they will at least suspend the collection and give you the opportunity to go back to the IRS and say, why wasn't this cleared up? And don't ignore the IRS.
No, I don't think you should ignore them. But imagine a long time ago, all the movies and things like that. The people that lived in the backwoods and stuff, and they'd be standing there with their guns and say, the revenues are coming and they're going to come take everything, and how scared everybody was. And and now they've given the guns to the IRS to do that. That's what scares me. It makes me feel like that's pretty stupid for them to, have something like that. Are you getting a call? Is that your? Is that your?
Yeah, I'm trying to. It seems like my phone won't even. What you're supposed to be able to do, stop it. Okay.
That's okay. We'll pretend like, because I only have like 3 more minutes and we're out of this interview. This interview. But you have been amazing, Carolyn. And all I can say is to people, if you have anything to do with the IRS, if you have a CPA like Carolyn, you half your worries are all gone, because she knows how to handle them. And that's what you need. You need somebody that understands the law, knows how to, discuss this with the IRS. So that would be my advice to anybody. They need to find somebody like you. And you're not allowed to die, okay? And I've told Sam we have a pact that I've got to go first, because I don't want to have to deal with this stuff. And if my sister's gone, I don't know what I'm going to do. So y'all all need to stay healthy, okay?
Right. My last words would be to contact your CPA or your attorney if the IRS contacts you and you're uncomfortable with it.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And God bless you, Carolyn, and everything you do. And tell Rick and John and all those guys at your firm that.
Well, I appreciate that.
They're so respected.
It's nice to have the lifestyle that you have to bring entertainment to the world and fun, make fun of everything.
and
not worry about stuff.
And how many people can say having a discussion on the with a CPA, with an accountant, being entertaining? And it was. You're great. You're wonderful. So thank you, and tell everybody I said hi. Give everybody a hug for me. I love you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Pay your taxes.
Okay. Bye-bye. Love you.
Bye.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that was my sister. I told you you'd love her. Have you ever heard so much knowledge come out of one 4'11", person that knows so much? That's amazing. But she's been doing it a long time, so that's why. But we were just totally opposite. I was never jealous of her. She could sew a dress in one night. She could do all this stuff in one night. She was amazing. She's just incredible. And I never was jealous of her. I just have the highest regard and respect, and so proud that she's my sister. So I just wanted to thank her again. That's so sweet. And tomorrow we are going to be talking about a concert that's going to happen with the it's the last leg of the Texas Lone Wolf concert, and we're going to talk about where you can find. It's going to be free, and it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's going to be Sunday, and we're going to have two of the people that have put this together on to talk to us tomorrow. And he got stories because these two people were behind stage at Las Vegas when that shooting happened. And so they've got stories about everything and then about this concert that's coming up on Sunday. So I hope you stay with us. And first responders, we love you. We love you. We respect you so much. And we thank you for everything that you've done. Bye-bye. See ya.
This program is sponsored by the Wootton Financial Group. It is not the intent of Wootton Financial Group to render or offer personalized investment advice or financial planning advice through this radio program or any related website. Wootton Financial Group's participation in this program is limited to providing general information on financial matters and should not be construed as financial recommendation or investment advice. Investment advisory services are offered through Game Plan Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission and the state of Texas. Insurance services are offered through Wootton Financial Group, Inc. Game Plan Advisors and Wootton Financial Group, Inc. are affiliated through common ownership, and neither firm is affiliated with The Cindy Cochran Show. No listener should assume that any information presented and or made available on this program serves as the receipt of or a substitute for personalized individual advice from Game Plan Advisors, Wootton Financial Group, or any of their representatives.
Does your company have